Why are you stressed? It's a question you sometimes ask yourself when you're about to present to your team. But there are reasons why you're stressed, and they're not what you think. Have you ever wondered why there is something so strange about stress? Most people believe they are stressed because they work too much, because they have too many responsibilities, or simply because life is hard. And yes, it is true, life is hard. But science tells us a very different story. Stress is not just a reaction to events, it is a reaction on how your brain interprets the world. And if you understand this, you already understand half of the problem. In this video, we're going to look at why you are stressed, not based on opinions, but on what psychology, neuroscience, and stress biology actually show. Part 1. Stress is not a modern problem. Contrary to what many people think, stress is not a flaw. It is a survival mechanism. One of the first scientists to study stress seriously was Hans Selye, an Hungarian Canadian endocrinologist. In the 30s, Selye defined stress as a non-specific response of the body to any demand placed upon it. In simple terms, your body does not distinguish between a physical threat and a psychological one. Your brain reacts the same way to a predator chasing you, a conflict at work, or an email you are afraid to open. In all cases, the same biological system is activated. Cortisol is released, heart rate increases, attention narrows towards the perceived threat. This system was extremely efficient when threats were short and physical. The problem is that modern threats are constant, abstract, and rarely resolved. In the modern world, danger doesn't end. It follows you everywhere. It's the unread emails sitting in your box, the feeling that you're always behind, even when you are doing your best. It is not one clear problem that appears and disappears. It is a continuous stream of unfinished tasks, expectations, and invisible pressure. Your brain evolves to face short-term threats, fight, run, recover, but modern stressors don't allow recovery. A message you should reply to, a deadline that keeps moving, a performance review that hasn't happened yet, but already lives in your head. There is no clear signal that says, you are safe now. Even rest is no longer rest. While your brain sitting still, your mind is anticipating future problems, replaying past conversation, comparing itself to others online. Social media turns stress into background noise. You don't feel attacked, you feel evaluated. You see people achieving more, moving faster, living better lives, or at least appearing to. Your brain interprets this as a risk of falling behind, risk of not being enough, risk of being excluded. And most dangerous part is that none of these threats can be confronted directly. You cannot fight an algorithm. You cannot escape uncertainty. You cannot finish something that never clearly ends. So, your stress response stays on, not because you are in danger, but because your brain never receives the signal to stop. Part 2. The real trigger of stress. Psychological research is very clear on one point. Stress is not caused by situations themselves, but by how we evaluate them mentally. This idea comes from the work of Richard Lazarus and Susan Folkman, two major figures in cognitive psychology. In the transactional model of stress, they show that stress appears when two conditions are met. You perceive a situation as threatening, and you believe you do not have the resources to cope with it. In other words, stress is born from a perceived lack of control. Two people, same situation. One stays calm, the other becomes overwhelmed. The difference, not strength, is his interpretation. You must have confidence to avoid stress in your real life. Part 3. How a stressed brain changes. chronic stress doesn't just affect how you feel, it physically changes your brain. Neuroscientific studies, including work by Bruce McKeown at Rockefeller University, show that prolonged stress increases activity in the amygdala, fear and threat detection, weakens the prefrontal cortex responsible for reasoning, planning, and emotional regulation. The result is simple. Your brain becomes better at detecting danger and worse at thinking clearly of what you've eaten yesterday. This creates a vicious cycle. The more stressed you are, the more threatening the world appears. And the more threatening the world appears, the more stressed you become. Part 4. Why you feel like you never really rest. A study published in Nature Human Behavior shows that the brain does not truly recover when it is constantly stimulated. Notifications, information overload, social comparison, invisible pressure. Even without a clear stressor, the brain remains a state of low-level alert. This is not intense stress. It is diffuse stress, and it is the most exhausting kind. Your nervous system never fully shuts off. Part 5. Chronic stress is not a personal failure. Being stressed does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you are fragile. It does not mean you are failing. Research consistently links chronic stress to uncertainty, lack of meaning, lack of predictability about the future. The more ambiguous a situation is, the higher stress levels become. Your brain hates uncertainty. It prefers a bad certainty over endless ambiguity. As an example, you can imagine 2 situations. In the first one, you are in a job you don't like, the salary is mediocre, the work doesn't excite you, but you know exactly what tomorrow looks like. You know when you wake up, you know what tasks are waiting for you, you know how much you'll be paid at the end of the month. It's not a good situation, but it is certain. In the second situation, you consider living. There might be something better, there might be more meaning, there might be growth, but nothing is guaranteed. Your brain compares the two. One option is unsatisfying but predictable. The other might be better but uncertain. And very often, the brain chooses the first one, not because it is good, but because it is known. This is what psychologists mean when they say the brain prefers a bad certainty over ambiguity. But finally, we don't know how to act facing stress. So, what are the real solutions? If stress is not the problem but a signal, then the solution is not to silence it. The solution is to respond to what is sparking that. So, we must restore a sense of control. Studies by Julian Rotter on locus of control and later by Albert Bandura on self-efficacy show the same thing. Stress decreases dramatically when people feel that their actions matter. Not that they control everything, but that they control something. The brain doesn't need total control. It needs clear zones of influence. So, the real question becomes, what is actually under my control and what is not? Stress drops when you stop mentally fighting things you cannot influence. Most people try to reduce stress by doing less, but science suggests something more effective. Reduce uncertainty. Studies on uncertainty stress show that clarity often matters more than comfort. For example, unclear goals, vague expectations, and defined timelines that are some of strongest stressors. Your brain relaxes, not when life is easy, but when life is clear. So you must define what good enough looks like for you, give tasks an endpoint, replace vague worries with concrete next steps. Psychologist Bluma Zegarnik showed that the brain remembers unfinished tasks better than finished ones. This is called the Zeigarnik effect. An open loop keeps your stress system slightly active. You don't need to finish everything, but you need to decide, schedule, or consciously let go. Closure calms the nervous systems. Here's something important. You cannot reason your way your stress if your body feels unsafe. Neuroscience showed that the nervous system needs physical signals of safety. This includes slow breathing, consistent sleep, regular movements, predictable routines. These are not wellness tips, they are biological switches. A regulated body makes a regulated mind possible. Research by Kelly McGonigal at Stanford shows that how you interpret stress changes its impact. People who see stress as a signal to adjust instead of proof that something is wrong show lower anxiety, better performance, less long-term harm. Stress can even become useful when it is treated as data, not as enemy. If you've made this far, it means something in this video resonated with you. Not because stress is new, but because many of us feel it without ever really understanding it. This channel is about slowing things down, about understanding the mind, the brain, and the invisible pressures of modern life. If you want more videos like this, long, calm, grounded in science, and focused on clarity rather than noise, you can subscribe. It will help my work. Not for motivation, not for quick fixes, but for deeper understanding. New videos will explore how to regain control, how to think more clearly, on how to live with less unnecessary stress in a world that constantly pulls your attention. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.